Good afternoon. Thank you. You know, it's such a privilege to open our concerts every year with a youth orchestra. This one really sensational. But, you know, part of what's so special about it is that, you know, you can hear in the playing this sense of experiencing the music for the first time. And that's what I remember from the two youth orchestras that I played in. And I feel so grateful that, you know, our youth orchestras, Seattle Youth Symphony, but all of our hundreds of youth orchestras in America are not only providing us with the talent, with the patrons, the volunteers for our orchestras, but they're carrying with them this wonderful sound of what it's like for the first time to come in contact with this music. And it's so terrific to keep that sound in your ears. So I'd like us all to give a big round of applause for all of our youth orchestras in America. So welcome to the 69th National Conference of the League, and hello to all of you watching us online. I think the camera's up there, so I'm waving. Hello, everyone online. We're glad you're with us. And it's nice that all of you are here, too. How many of you are here in Seattle for the very first time? I can't see. Lots? Good. Okay, well, it's a great, great city. And you should have a terrific time. Simon will tell you more about it in a minute. But there's one disappointment we have at this conference. Our friends at the Seattle Symphony had promised us that they would give us a true Seattle experience, but somehow they failed to produce rain, the one thing we always expect when we come to Seattle. But we'll get over that. But it is a wonderful city, and it's an extraordinary orchestra with a remarkable past. It counts among its music directors the great Sir Thomas Beecham. And for decades, it was the only orchestra that held its subscription concerts on Monday nights. And this is because the burlesque houses were closed on Monday nights, so the musicians were available to play in the orchestra, or so the story goes. But today, the Seattle Symphony defines the 21st century orchestra in America. Its programming is fresh, it's innovative, it's bold, it is deeply grounded in its community. And it continually and creatively invests in the future of our art form and the future of our audience. But I think Alex Ross said it best recently in writing about the orchestra's performance in Carnegie Hall, when he said, "When conductor, players, and administrators are of one mind, an orchestra can become a singularly vital beast." So we're very fortunate to have this singularly vital beast. Yeah. So this beast is our host, and over the next 3 days, we can take in important new knowledge and perspective from the digital concert hall to good governance practice. So I hope you'll take it all in, talk to people from different budget-sized orchestras, people who do different things than you do. Eat well, drink, stay up late, and have lots of fun. Because in the words of that great classic musician, Mick Jagger, anything worth doing is worth overdoing. One morning when I was general manager here at the Seattle Symphony, I was sitting at my desk when a woman walked in unannounced. I asked if I could help her, and she said no, but she said she could help me. And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And she said, "I'm a volunteer, and I came here to help you." And once a week for the next 2 years, Beth Richards came to my office and helped me get through the piles of paper on my desk. And she was a lifeline for me, and as you can tell, I've never forgotten her kindness and her generosity. I'd like to thank the Volunteer Council of the League. Under Laura Hyde's inspired leadership, the Council supports orchestra volunteers across the country through the development of the volunteer track at conference, through webinars, mentoring programs, and communications platforms. They provide continuing and growing support in fundraising for the League, and they're our ambassadors throughout the country by sharing the value and practice of volunteerism. I'd like to ask all the members of the Volunteer Council to stand so we can recognize you, and maybe someone backstage could put on some lights for a second. Thank you. Now, none of us would be here today if it wasn't for our very good friends and co-sponsors, BMI and DCM Inc. BMI is a global leader in music rights management, advocating for the value of music by representing public performance rights for more than 8.5 million musical works owned by more than 600,000 songwriters, composers, and publishers. BMI is represented here today by Chris McCormick, Brian Philbin, and Deirdre Chadwick. DCM is the premier teleservices company dedicated exclusively to supporting the sales and fundraising efforts of not-for-profit organizations throughout the country. DCM is represented here today by President Phil Miller and Vice President William Lester. Please join me in thanking these two companies and all of our sponsors for their great support. And finally, I'd like to thank VCube USA for providing their concierge web broadcasting services for the streaming of this opening session. They do a fantastic job. Okay. Now, this morning, something came under my door. It said, League of American Orchestras Conference 2014, Seattle, an unofficial guide to eating and drinking. And it was a wonderfully penned document, and I'll just read you one brief entry that I thought was especially rich. The title of this is At the Airport. A good recent development at the airport is the arrival of Dilettante Coffee in the central food court and at the end gates. This is a great Seattle company with just a few outlets around town. They're one of very many who roast their own excellent coffee. But the added interest is that they also make superb chocolates. The Habsburg blend coffee and any of their chocolates are great Seattle gifts to take back home to caffeine and sugar-addicted friends and family. Now, this happened to have been penned by the executive director of the Seattle Symphony, Simon Woods, who is seemingly doubling as an advocate for his city, and he's a great one and a great advocate for his orchestra. I'd like to invite Simon to the stage. Coming up, Simon.
I'm expecting you to read that out. Thank you very much, Jesse. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to caffeinated and chocolate Seattle. We're happy to have you here. We're happy to have you in our wonderful city and our wonderful hall. And, you know, it's great. I've always loved the conference. It's just amazing to look out here and see so many friends who I've built up over these years. And to have you all in Seattle, we know this is a very long way from anywhere. So the fact that so many people have made the trip today is very meaningful to us, and we promise to give you a wonderful time. Now, if you've walked around Seattle in the last couple of days, you'll have noticed that pretty much everywhere you look, there's cranes and construction work. The energy and the growth and the change is palpable. Last week, just 2 weeks ago actually, the latest US Census information revealed that Seattle is the fastest growing of the top 50 American cities. Our big companies, you know the names, Amazon, Microsoft, Boeing, Starbucks, are continuing to create an extraordinary impact on the way we live our lives today. But this city is about more than growth and creativity, it's also about values. The city of Seattle just this week passed a resolution to move to a $15 an hour minimum wage. That will be... That makes it the highest in the nation by a very long way. As another example, the greenest office building in the world opened here last year. This city is progressive in every sense of the word. And over the last 3 years, we've had the very good fortune to watch our orchestra with our terrific music director, Ludovic Morleau, go on an amazing musical journey. But we've also been on a journey, and an institutional journey of our own, which is to embody a little bit of what Seattle stands for. So that spirit of eclecticism and creativity and innovation, you should see a bit of that this week. Tomorrow night, you'll be able to hear Dutier's wonderful Second Symphony, and the night after, if you're still here, you'll be able to hear our orchestra with Ludovic Morleau with Sir Mix-a-Lot on stage rapping Baby Got Back. Really. We'll also be talking about, later in the conference, about some of our partnerships with the native communities in the Pacific Northwest. And we'll be featuring some local bands, music from other genres that we love to interact with. You'll hear a great band at the tune-up party on Thursday night. And speaking of the tune-up party, after the concert, going back to food again, it's never too far away in Seattle, you'll be able to eat delicious food from an amazing local organization called Fair Start, who are our caterers for the tune-up party on Thursday night. And Fair Start is an organization that provides work opportunities for homeless and disadvantaged people and sets them up for a work and a lifetime and career in catering. And it's a meaningful contribution that they make to our city. So that mixture of creativity, innovation, community, and compassion is what we're all about. That's our journey. And I often say to people, if ever I'm let loose on any group of people in Seattle, I always say, it's not about casually being an orchestra in Seattle. It's about very intentionally being the orchestra of Seattle. That's our journey and that's our mission, and we're very happy to share that with you this week. So welcome everybody. I hope you have a wonderful conference. Enjoy catching up with friends, stimulating conversation, and lots of good coffee. Thanks a lot.
The Gold Baton is the League's highest honor for a lifetime achievement on behalf of orchestras nationwide. Washington, D.C. has served as an important platform for great orchestra leaders like our friend Wayne Brown. Wayne, whom we'll hear much more about in a moment, has left Washington and the NEA for Detroit. But another great orchestra leader will soon be taking her place in our nation's capital. Please join me in welcoming to this stage, a stage literally built with her own blood, sweat, and tears, the next president and CEO of the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, Deborah Rutter.
When I said farewell to the Seattle Symphony 11 years ago, just around June, a performance of the great Seattle Symphony, the music director at that time, Jerry Schwartz, brought me out on stage and said, I think she knows the name and placement of every seat in here. And I think I do. It's a real joy to be here. Thank you for hosting it so I could come here as my last as an orchestra manager. Thank you, Jesse. It's a real honor to be able to say some nice words about a great, great man. Today in our sessions, we talked about the importance of storytelling, and that storytelling can be the very best way to share your emotions, your ideas, to bring people along. And I hope that I can tell a few stories now about this wonderful man. So if I can be formal, I'd like to say I have the great honor of presenting the 2014 League of American Orchestras Gold Baton to our dear friend and wonderful colleague, Wayne Brown. Just one of the many things that makes Wayne such a special friend to me is that I know that he is also a really special friend to all of you here in this room. He's been a wonderful advocate for all of us and our organizations when and where we've needed him most. Nothing could make me happier than to present Wayne with this Gold Baton. Our field's greatest honor. This is a big deal. This is really a really big deal. I'm looking at you, Wayne. He knows this. It's given for distinguished service, national impact, and significance in your contributions to our world of music and orchestras. Innovation. Innovation is a crazy word, isn't it? It's a concept that has a great currency in our world today. We embrace the new with ever-increasing zeal and courage, but this wasn't always the case. When many of us were still trying to figure out how to make a tour run smoothly, hit our annual fund targets, or recruit the next brilliant music director or board chair, Wayne Brown was already innovating. We didn't call it that back then. In fact, too many of us hardly noticed at all. But Wayne was working on the big stuff, inventing the work and practices that would help orchestras find their way in a new world. While at the helm of the Louisville Orchestra, with its legacy of singular and unwavering commitment to the music of American composers, Wayne took that orchestra and orchestras everywhere to new heights. 20 years before the term globalization was coined, Wayne understood that American composers and their music had to be understood and experienced in a global context. He understood world music before we knew what that term meant. His landmark sound celebrations, festivals, gatherings of composers from around the world for concerts and forums brought new and important voices to the American orchestra scene and reestablished the Louisville Orchestra as pioneers. On Wayne's very first job, a time when most of us are typically a deer in headlights, Wayne was at the Detroit Symphony developing that orchestra's very first African Roots concert. That program has continued without interruption through today, and its design has been widely replicated by orchestras across the country. This innovation was years ahead of all of the coming call for diversity in orchestras and the performing arts. Wayne turned his gifts to a national platform through service on the League Board from 1986 to 1996 and served as vice chair for the last 3 of those years. He played a major role in the League's controversial, can you believe it, controversial 1992 publication, Americanizing the American Orchestra. Remember that? Now, more than 20 years later, even its staunchest critics at that time acknowledge its prescience and relevance. Indeed, that report anticipated our challenges today. New generations of concertgoers would bring new expectations of the concert experience. Technology would present new creative opportunities. The demographic changes in the US population would add urgency for action and diversity. And the work of living composers represented a path to creative vitality and a bridge to younger audiences. You led us there, Wayne. On a parallel path, Wayne played a critical role in another national effort as an advisor to the Knight Foundation's 10-year project Magic of Music program. As one of the largest and longest foundation investments ever in the orchestra field, Magic of Music, with Wayne's guidance, was bringing together teams of staff, musicians, and music directors to tackle some of the toughest challenges of audience development, relevance to community, and transforming the concert experience. Again, Wayne was at the forefront of the conversations and innovations that would advance orchestras nationwide. Most of us, however, really got to know Wayne personally through his 17 years as Director of Music and Opera for the National Endowment for the Arts. Forgive me, Ronald Reagan, but when Wayne said, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help," it was music to our ears. Wayne exemplified and exemplifies the highest standards of public service, period. He is it. He was an ambassador, always a diplomat, a champion, and an advocate. He was especially proud of the Jazz Masters Awards, just talking about it to me backstage, which in essence he was the executive producer for. They were really fantastic. It was great that he turned his gifts to a neighboring art form and demonstrated that we all work together. He was creative in his role at the NEA. He was creative, fair, an attentive listener, a counselor, and often a confidant. Above all, he helped all of us, often by challenging us to think bigger, to be more creative, other times just getting us through the maze of all that bureaucracy of the agency. Wayne brought distinction and class to the NEA and to the art of grant making. Now Wayne has moved again to do more important in the field of music, and just 6 months ago he returned to Detroit to become president and CEO of the Michigan Opera Theater. We will be watching you, Wayne, to see what new work you have to do there and how you will lead us further. I know I'm only supposed to speak formally on behalf of the League and all of you, But now I'd like to speak to you, Wayne, simply as the dear friend that you are. I've known Wayne since I began working in the orchestras, so that would be 36 years, 1 month, and 4 days ago. And early on, we clicked as good friends and colleagues, and with a few others as well. And as I look around the room and I think about the connections you're making here today, whether you've been in the field a long time or you're coming into it new, you make good friends, and from very early on in your career, those friends will stick. These friends are the ones that get you through tough times and keep us laughing and keep us going. Just keep us going and looking forward. By the way, we rely a lot on the League for getting us to this place as we are today and for keeping us connected. But we have our own little group. We're giving away a secret here. I hope you guys don't mind that I'm giving away this secret, but we have a secret. And our secret is that we have a group called, creatively, The Amigos. And we meet regularly. No particular timeline for it, but we meet regularly to celebrate, to mourn, to debate, console, support, confide, create, devise. For me, Wayne has been ever patient, thoughtful, probing, quick to ask about my family, and even quicker with his warm smile, and even quicker than that to order a dry martini. We all know that this work is hard. It's very, very rewarding, especially when you see young people like this starting out in the field, but it's hard work. And we can't really do it alone. It really requires that we have a partner, a spouse. And in Brenda, Wayne has that amazing partner and spouse who has supported him and made it possible for him to do what he does. So we're here to say thank you and to celebrate you as well, Brenda, because you have shared Wayne with us. And so to you, mi amigo, it is my great privilege to present the 2014 Gold Baton Award to Wayne Brown. Hold on one moment. Oh wait, they're all standing up, so I'm not going to read them. They're all standing up.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, Jesse. This is indeed a poignant moment for me for several reasons, including the fact that my presenter and dear friend, Deborah, will soon leave Chicago for Washington, where I just departed not too long ago. We are so proud of you, and thank you so much for this moment. My first live experience with the Symphony Orchestra was a fourth grade school visit to Ford Auditorium in Detroit, Michigan, to hear the Detroit Symphony Orchestra. Who would have known that my life would never be the same after that initial encounter? A few years later, I spent 2 summers as a student at the Meadowbrook Music Festival, summer home of the Detroit Symphony, where cellist Leonard Rose performed the Dvorak Cello Concerto, conducted by Sixten Ehrling. I was so moved that the following week, with money collected from my paper route, I purchased my first classical music recording. It was a work of the Dvorak Cello Concerto with Leonard Rose by the Philadelphia Orchestra, conducted by Eugene Ormandy. Upon my graduation from the University of Michigan, Marshall Turkin, then executive director of the Detroit Symphony, took a chance and invested in my development for a career as an orchestra manager. And as they say, the rest is history. After 6 years with the DSO, I spent another 17 years in orchestra management as executive director of orchestras in Springfield, Massachusetts, and Louisville, Kentucky. My personal enthusiasm for orchestras is triggered by several factors. The power of the music, ranging from Beethoven, or earlier, through Adams, or later. The ability to engage audiences through multiple platforms and settings, but such as those described by Simon earlier this evening. The opportunity to engage and nurture young people with the art form that we care so deeply about, whether that's in the audience or on stage as we experience today with the Seattle Youth Orchestra. The social element of forming friendships around a common interest in the performing arts, as Deborah correctly and succinctly pointed out, with the role that a few of us were able to establish among our own. As you know, for 16 and a half years, I was privileged to serve my country in a role of public service and consider that phase of my life to be the most meaningful of my professional career. During my tenure with the NEA, and with the assistance of a talented and devoted staff of professionals, Anya Nikiforiak and Court Burns, I had incredible opportunity to monitor the significant work that was being developed by a wide range of music and opera organizations nationwide and encourage the investment of our nation's resources into meaningful projects. The Arts Endowment serves a curatorial role in supporting projects perceived by colleagues in the field as impactful, showing great promise, and worthy of the limited resources that are available. I believe that my current post with the Michigan Opera Theater allows me to return to my roots in Detroit and seek to enable another art form that has strong orchestral ties and to continue to make a difference in the greater Detroit community. The opportunity for my organization to partner with the DSO, Leonard Slatkin and Ann Parsons, means more to me than you can possibly imagine. Together, along with our fellow Detroit-based arts organizations, we can create the new narrative of what defines a community. I have been privileged to work with many of you because of our association with the League of American Orchestras. This organization has been an unsung hero for orchestras. Through 5 CEOs that I have known, Ralph Black, Catherine French, Chuck Olton, Henry Fogel, and of course Jesse Rosen, I have watched and participated in the League's effort to engage and support a complex tapestry of symphony orchestras. Consistently, the leadership has remained steadfast, imaginative, persuasive, and thoughtful, as reflected in the theme for this year's conference, Critical Questions, Countless Solutions. Today, orchestras are artistically strong, inventive, and increasingly relevant. Yet, in my view, we must continue to invest in the effort to convey the values of the arts and culture in our society. We cannot allow another year to go by declaring from the sidelines our dismay at the failure of our schools to incorporate meaningful art experiences as part of the core curriculum. We must resist the temptation to limit the conversation and experience to those who know of what we speak. The roster of Gold Baton recipients is significant, spanning notable conductors, administrators, arts advocates, and philanthropists, and I am humbled now to be included among them. My wife, Brenda, joins me in expressing appreciation to the League of American Orchestras, to the board, to the membership, to the Friends of the Arts for this great honor. Thank you.